Hey, welcome everyone to Ask Nutritionist Deepa's another episode of the podcast and the video cast. And the question that I'll be answering on today's episode is, can you lose weight while sleeping? And to answer that question, I have no other than Devin Burke, who is a TED speaker, author of the book The Sleep Advantage, founder of Sleep Science Academy, and recognized as one of the top 25 coaches in America. So I couldn't find anybody better than Devin to help us or open our eyes on the subject of how important sleep is. So Devin, welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here and to talk sleep and to dive into this question. It's a good one.
So Devin, before we go on, I want to ask you, why did you decide to study sleep? What is so special about sleep?
Well, honestly, Deepa, I didn't realize how important sleep was until I started to study it. I thought it was a waste of time. I studied exercise physiology, I studied psychology, I studied nutrition, I studied a lot of different things. And it wasn't until I got to the science of sleep that I realized that it's the foundation of health and how important it is to longevity, to weight loss. Sleep impacts every area of our life, and it's very, very important. It is the foundation that extraordinary health is built on. And so once I kind of got into the science of it and realized that so much is happening throughout the night and it's critical to every aspect of our life, that's when I really continue to dive into it and continue to, explore how to help people improve their sleep and get more of it.
So tell us what is happening while we are sleeping? What you consider as waste of time was not actually waste of time. Your body was still doing something. So enlighten us with what was happening.
Yeah, I'll keep it really simple. So essentially, without sleep, if anyone has sleep knows the impact it has on the next day. Feel it. And what actually happens when we're sleeping is our body repairs. It's when, our body is actually removing cancer cells. It's when our brain is removing the beta amyloid and the plaque that builds up that creates Alzheimer's through the lymphatic system. It's when our memories are being consolidated, when short-term memories getting shuttled to long-term storage. It's when we come up with new creative ideas. It's when we work out the emotional traumas of the day. There's so much that happens. Our brains actually in REM sleep, or rapid eye movement, there's two stages of sleep. There's non-REM and REM. REM meaning dream sleep, rapid eye movement sleep. That's when, that is when we are actually working out the emotional traumas of the day. And that's why if we wake up too early and we get most of our REM sleep in the, second half of the night, that's when oftentimes we feel more irritable. We're more on edge. We're less emotionally stable. We misread people. That's because it's cutting into that really important stage of sleep that helps us be better humans, that helps us be patient, that helps us, navigate and read people's faces and understand emotional intelligence. So it really does, not only does it impact the physical health, but the mental and emotional health. And it helps us make better decisions. When we don't get sleep, we make poor decisions, and decisions dictate our life. So we got to make good ones.
And that, as you are talking about decisions, I want to get into the habit. For example, lack of sleep. How does that lack of sleep cascade leads into poor habits? Maybe eating correctly, incorrectly, caffeine, hydration, what have you. So what is your insight into the correlationship between sleep and what you do, or how that gets kind of out of balance?
Yeah, well, from a physiological standpoint, our hormones, ghrelin and leptin, ghrelin being the hormone that, signals when to eat, and leptin being the hormone that signals when to stop eating, that gets dysregulated. So essentially, when we're underslept, we crave sugar and fat like crazy. And we also store the sugar and fat that we eat, and our body's not signaling, we're storing it because our cortisol levels are high, and then our body doesn't signal us to stop eating because the leptin is dysregulated. So from a physiological standpoint, we have not only willpower to make better decisions, but our body physically craves sugar and fat because it thinks it's in a stress state. And when you're in a stress state, your body's going to look for sugar and fat. And then with that cortisol being high, your body's going to store that sugar and fat. So that, from a physiological standpoint, that's what's going on. So our hormones are working against us. And then, like I said, from a mental standpoint, willpower goes down. Willpower is a real thing. And if you are not well slept, you're going to make poor decisions. That, when you're at the vending machine, you can go for the Coke or the water. Most likely you're going to go for the Coke because you're craving that caffeine, you're craving that sugar for energy, versus going for the water, which we know would be a better choice.
Absolutely. So it has direct impact on same habits that we are trying to change. But if we don't sleep, then that engine is going to collapse, so to speak.
Yeah, and it actually, sleep's the foundation for structure within our day. So I often hear from people that don't sleep, they can't, their life is more chaotic. Sleep is this sort of this core anchor that allows us to stay in a rhythmic set of habits. It starts with good sleep, and then you build the foundation of those habits around sleep. And when you don't get good sleep, that's when the rest of the day just seems chaotic, and you seem like you're behind and you're trying to catch up, and it's just, you see the world through a different lens, and that dictates what you do and what you don't do. And usually it's we're doing the wrong things because we don't have the energy or the mental capacity to do the right things.
Yeah, I mean, that goes right into the circadian rhythm or the circadian clock that we have inside a built-in clock. So I can see that lack of sleep or irregular sleep habits is going to change the way that clock is working, and things are going to be flipped. Talking about the clock, I want to ask you, some people argue that does it really matter if you get enough sleep at night versus day? They say, oh, I sleep, I'm binge watching Netflix until 3 a.m. and then I catch up on my sleep until 10 a.m. next day. So where is that taking that person with that kind of sleep clock?
Yeah, so if I understand your question correctly, it's the dysregulation of circadian clock, how that impacts sleep. So somebody that's staying up really late into the night and trying to catch up on sleep, there's we get in certain stages of sleep at certain times. Like the money sleep hours are from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. That's when we get most of our deep sleep. So if you're not allowing your body to sleep within that normal time when the sun starts to set, which then triggers the melatonin to start to drip out, which then triggers the sleepiness, the body temperature starts to go down about 2 to 3 degrees Fahrenheit. If you're pushing that back, it's just going to dysregulate the whole system. It's your and so you can get away with that once in a while, but if you're consistently not on a schedule and you're staying up late into the night and you're sleeping way further into the day, our bodies want to stay in homeostasis, and you're throwing off that homeostasis, and that is a form of stress. So the more you can stay on a consistent sleep and wake schedule, the better off your body is going to know what to do when, and it's less stressful to the mind-body system, which then dictates more energy output for other things.
Absolutely. So are there any specific tips or observations that you have seen after seeing so many sleepless people that which are directly related to weight loss?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so this is a great topic. I often see people that they're exercising and they're eating the right foods, but they're not sleeping and they're wondering why they're not losing weight. And the reason is we actually burn a lot of calories throughout the night. That's when our body's repairing. And as I mentioned before, with the cortisol and the ghrelin and leptin, so there's two things here. There's the effects the next day as to lack of willpower and then being hungrier, craving the wrong foods. And then there's also the dysregulation of the hormones, specifically cortisol, which is the fat storing hormone. And so our bodies, exercise is a stress. And when we're not sleeping, it puts more stress onto the system, and a body goes into survival mode. It thinks it needs to hold on to that fat to survive. And so it's not going to release that fat. And that's when people have really a hard time losing weight. And if you just would focus on improving the sleep quality, the fat would start to come off. And I've seen this with clients. I've seen this with people, at conferences when I'm speaking, they share this with me. It's when they focused on their sleep, that's when the exercise and the nutrition actually paid off, because they had more energy to exercise and they had more willpower to make good food choices. And then the weight started, and their hormones start to regulate. Their body goes into, a parasympathetic state again, and they're able to lose weight.
This is one intervention where we don't have to do anything. We don't have to go to the gym. We don't have to be in the kitchen to cook something healthy. This can be achieved just by establishing a good sleeping habit, which is a biggest ROI, I think, return on investment of sleep.
Actually, my TEDx talk was titled "The ROI of Sleep."
Oh,
and it is. There is a massive, it's a massive return on investment. It's not a waste of time. It's not. Sleep. You snooze, you win. It's not you snooze, you lose. When you sleep, every aspect of your life, including your ability to lose weight, will improve. And don't take my word for it. Try it, and then let me know.
So, Devin, luckily my body works as a clock. No matter what is happening in the world, no matter how crazy it is around me or what the temptations are, I start to fall asleep around 9:30, and that's it. I just can't seem to stay awake after that. Nothing tempts me to stay awake after 9:30 or so. And then I sleep, I wake up around 5:30 as if I'm like a bunny with a lot of energy. And during schooling and everything, my sleep was disturbed. But once I got into the routine, like you said, things stabilized, and the clock got reset, so to speak. So I have a question for you. What can people do who have fallen off their sleep cycle?
Yeah, great question. There's a couple important things. If you fall off your sleep cycle, first and foremost, you want to make sure that you try to get back on it as soon as possible. And how do you do that is you prioritize the next night of sleep. So depending on who I'm speaking to, whether it's a professional athlete or a mom, sometimes there's a place for naps. But if you nap too late in the day, that can also then dysregulate the sleep pressure system, and then that can lead to less sleep at night, and then cascade, this goes on and on. So the two things that really are important to focus here is what controls sleep is body temperature and lighting. So if you want to regulate your circadian clock, you want to make sure that you get sun first thing in the morning, and also being outside when the sun starts to set, that can also help sync up the clock. Believe it or not, getting out in nature, putting your feet literally on the earth, sounds like a hippie thing, but there is science around this, that it helps the body sync to the natural rhythms of the frequencies of the earth. And that's really important. And a lot of times people are so disconnected from those natural rhythms. So sunlight in the morning, watching the sun set in the evening, getting your feet on the ground. Then you can also, make sure that you're optimizing your body temperature. So doing things like taking a hot shower in the evening and then going into a cold bedroom can help drop the body temperature to induce sleep. But then really the biggest thing, and it's the most simplest, is just get back on your schedule as soon as possible. That's really, the body knows, is intelligent, has an innate wisdom. just don't get in the way of that. The body will regulate itself if you don't get in the way of it doing it. So it's very simple.
Listen to your body, basically.
Listen to your body.
Your body.
Basically, listen to your body.
Yeah, exactly. So any input on how many hours of sleep, caffeine, those sleeping aids, like, any herbs, spice, anything, what are those other factors that can aid or hinder the sleep cycle?
Yeah, so sleep, the amount of sleep is going to depend on your lifestyle, depending on a lot of factors. Most people need between 7 to 8.5 hours of sleep. If you're a professional athlete, you're going to need a little bit more. If you're, depending on where you are, what you're eating, there's how much stress, mental and emotional and physical stress you're going through is going to dictate how much sleep you need. But generally, caffeine and alcohol are the two biggest ones that are really low-hanging fruit for people to cut out or cut back on. Caffeine gets in the way of deep sleep. It gets in the way of quality REM sleep because it blocks adenosine. And adenosine is the neurochemical that builds up during the day that makes us sleepy. And what caffeine does is it kind of just like slips into that barrier. It doesn't allow the adenosine to hit the receptor. And then when it eventually wears off 6 to 8 hours later, you're getting a massive flood of that adenosine, and then you're getting that crash in caffeine. So a little bit of caffeine early in the morning, not later than 1 p.m. at the latest. For people that are not caffeine sensitive, you can get away with that. Alcohol, the earlier the better. And not in moderation, because it's a diuretic, it dehydrates you. It also gets in the way of REM sleep. But and also not eating too late at night. This is a big mistake. A lot of people eat way too close to bedtime. Having like a 3-hour fasting window allows the body to then get into that restorative deep delta sleep between the hours of 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. so that your brain and body are repairing versus your body diverting energy to the digestive system to try to digest food. So, these are just really simple things that people can, be aware of that make a big difference over several weeks and months when you make these small changes.
Perfect. This has been extremely valuable information. So those who are sleepless in Chicago here, around me, some of my patients, where can they find you? How else can you help them?
Yeah, so you can find me at sleepscienceacademy.com. And we help people all across the country that have chronic onset or maintenance insomnia who have tried everything, like the sleep supplements and the medication and maybe even psychology or hypnosis or acupuncture. We're actually able to help these people reset their sleep systems, understand how the mind body, remove the barriers, the mental and physical barriers to sleep, through sleep education as well as through coaching and technology. So you can learn more about what we do and how we do it at sleepscienceacademy.com.
Okay, perfect. So guys, no more binging on Netflix at night. Get to sleep by 10 o'clock as Devin has suggested, because sleep is going to be a deal maker breaker for our health. And like he mentioned, nutrition, hydration, exercise, everything will plays important role, but sleep is the one which is going to tie everything together. So that's a wonderful message. Thank you, Devin, for being a guest on my podcast, Ask Nutritionist Deepa, and we will see you soon. And hopefully some folks will reach out to you, because I know there are people who have a lot of trouble with sleeping.
Well, I appreciate you having me on the show. And if anyone listening to this needs support, get and just, reach out. I'd love to help anyone that's struggling with their sleep.
Thank you.
Thank you.